And when you have those meetings with the client, especially the guys at CBS, you have to try to understand their point of view to some extent. Like, okay, what they like, what they're trying to achieve, and what are the best solutions that I can provide them. There might not be all the stuff that I personally like, but I know that the client is gonna be a good solution for their problems. I'm okay with it, but it's not like the best. I love this design, but I know for a fact there's a good solution for a problem. You know what I'm saying? That instead of I'm doing a design that I like and the clients think that's not a solution for a problem, but I keep pushing it.
We've got a nerdy one today, my friends. Marcos Vaz is a creative director and art director in Los Angeles who was a lead on the show package for this year's Super Bowl 58. And even better, a ton of it was created using Unreal Engine. In this episode, Marcos walks us through how he landed this insanely cool gig, why Unreal Engine was even in the mix, and how this tool is quickly revolutionizing the world of broadcast graphics. You're gonna love this one. Let's get to it. Marcos, I wanna hear about working on Super Bowl 58. I've never worked on a Super Bowl, and it's always been kind of like a bucket list thing, I think, for a lot of motion designers to work on something that big with that many eyeballs on it. So maybe you could just start at the beginning. Take us through the story of how you ended up working on Super Bowl 58 with Too Fresh.
Nice. It's not my first Super Bowl.
Not your first rodeo. That's good.
It's not my first Super Bowl. And I started doing Super Bowl, I think, like we talked before, I started doing Super Bowl in another studio. And we were doing I was the art director of the project at the time. And then I did I was a freelance, so they have me on board in the studio for the amount of time just to do designs and the part of the creation. And I was part of the big meetings with the client at CBS at the time, right? It was the Super Bowl 50. So we did have a meeting and it was offering solution, during that time. And then when my time ended as a freelancer in that company, I left, and it seems that the whole project started falling apart. Like the CBS was complaining about like some of the stuff that the other agency was creating. So they came back straight to me. It's like, hey, guy, hey, Marcos, because they met me at the meetings, right? So, hey, Marcos, we need your help because it's not working with the other agency. And you notice that you are the guy that was leading the design, and now you're not anymore in the team. And I was explaining to them, I was just a freelance. They hired me. I work with you guys, but then, they released me. And, but they came back to me and they said, but we love your work. We need to start working with you because it was working better when you were involved in the team. So they start from that moment on. They also, every time the CBS has like a big project, doesn't mean that only the Super Bowl, but some of the big projects, they always invite me in. At least a couple months, just as a freelance, like a designer freelance, a couple months to work with the internal team at CBS, just to figure out some cool ideas. Come up with us, work with us, just figure out some cool ideas. So I do that, and I did that for the other Super Bowl. I don't remember which number, because it's 50. I don't remember because it's my third.
I know, in the Roman numerals, so I had to literally Google which one it was.
So in my second Super Bowl with the CBS, it was the same thing. They hired me to do like just a month of creative thinking with the guys, with the internal team. There was no company involved at all. So I did that, and they loved the presentation, they loved the designs, they loved the concept behind it. It's like, we love the whole thing you're doing. And then they asked me, can you produce a Super Bowl? I was like, what do you mean? Like, we love your designs. Do it. Just do it. I was like, okay,
sure, yeah.
What's how
hard could it be, right?
what is the list of deliverables? And like send me like this huge list with like 300 elements, like promos, all the lower thirds, team interstitial, player interstitials, all the stuff that goes in the game, and the promos that goes after, before it's actually the whole day, because we do the whole day, the pregame shows, the game itself, then the after game shows, right? So it's pretty much the whole day. and the week before, all the promos and stuff. And they're looking at the list like, you know what, I don't think I can do it by myself.
Yeah, that's a lot. Well, hang on, Marcos. Let me ask you a question about this. Actually, I have two questions. One, what was going wrong with that other studio after you left that made CBS say, you know what, we kind of want to go right to the source where these designs were coming from?
I can tell right now that it wasn't exactly design per se, because they did have some great designers as well in the other studio. It was creative solution from problems. And that's something that I think, to be honest, that's something that makes some designers better than the other ones. Not because design is something that you might look like something and say, oh, this is great, or this is bad, or I don't know, but it's very personal, to be honest with you. You might, I don't know, I like the color blue, but some people like the color pink. And you look at it, I always go for the blue because it's the one I like. And you know what I'm saying? You have your taste. And when you have those meetings with the client, especially the guys at CBS, you have to try to understand their point of view to some extent. Like, okay, what they like, what they're trying to achieve, and what are the best solutions that I can provide them. There might not be all the stuff that I personally like, but I know that the client is gonna be a good solution for their problems. Okay, this is a great solution for your problem. I'm okay with it. But it's not like the best. I love this design, but I know for a fact there's a good solution for a problem. You know what I'm saying? That instead of I'm doing a design that I like and the clients think that's not a solution for a problem, but I keep pushing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, but it's beautiful. Look at it. It's beautiful.
Got it.
Yeah, but it's not a solution for a problem. You know, there's this pushing back. And I noticed that in the creative meetings with the clients, at the time in the agency, I was offering a lot of good solution for the issues that came up. We have everything, because it didn't have Zoom at the time. This whole Zoom thing. So the entire team at CBS would come from New York to LA, and they spend the whole day in the meeting room with breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The whole day, we close ourselves in the meeting room and be like, kicking back ideas, looking for all the stuff that need to be designed. So that was it. And during those meetings, I was one of the best offering solutions for the problem. Not designs, because I did all the designs and stuff together with, that was a team. You have like 3 or 4 other designs working together. But I remember that was very productive meetings. And after I left the project, that was what they're complaining, because they will go back to the agency to do those meetings again. I wasn't involved. And they got stuck, and they're like, "Oh my God, guys! I'm telling you this, and you guys keep me pushing this other thing." And that's what I'm looking for. You know, I wasn't those meetings, but that's the feedback I got straight from CBS when they hire me. They say, "Hey, you know, we have a horrible experience because the meeting got stuck. They got stuck in something so simple, because they couldn't figure out." You know, and he was saying exactly the same. He said, it's not the design was bad. The design actually was nice. You know, they have great designers, but we keep saying them, like, this is not the solution for our problem. And they keep pushing us the solution, and keep butting heads. And they say, dude, that's not how you work. So it was really frustrating. So that's when they tried to contact me back, saying, hey man, we need you back.
Yeah. So then they go straight to you. They go straight to you. That makes a ton of sense. I mean, I think that's very common too, especially like probably earlier in your career as a designer, you sort of learn like it's not actually about what I like, it's about what the client needs, you know, and that's got to be the North Star. But okay, so then the second question was, then you're working with CBS and you develop this relationship with them, and you know, it's clear that like they not only like you and how you work, but they like your work, right? And you're amazing designer.
Oh, thanks.
And then they come to you and they say, okay, Marcos, can you produce the Superbowl package for us? I don't know how specific you can get. Be as specific as you can or you're comfortable with. What is the budget for something like that? Like, because obviously one person doesn't do it. It's got to be a big team, right? With hundreds of deliverables. It's enormous, takes months probably. What kind of resources are you given to put a team together and do that?
So there's a funny story, and I can say it because it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they contact me again to do the Super Bowl after that one. The next time, this is my third Super Bowl. So the second time I did the Super Bowl, they contact me again because of that. Hey, we love to work with you, and they hired me to spend a couple months with their internal team to figure out some solutions. So they offered me the Super Bowl package. Hey, can you do the Super Bowl package? They sent me a list of deliverables, huge list of deliverables. I said, yeah. I was like, maybe I can, and they asked me like, how much it is, how much you think you'll be. And I think I said like at the time, because I was just looking maybe my hours and my like 2 other people kind of thing, I think I remember I said at the time, like something like $17,000, like $80,000, something like that.
Oh my God.
And the guy, the producer's like, I remember specific, his email was like, whoa, closed. I'm like, oh shit, I think I did something wrong here.
Yeah.
So what I did, I actually invite one of my friends that has a company, which is Too Fresh. And I showed him, hey man, I need your help. I work with this guy, CBS. And they asked me to do Super Bowl, but I think I undercharged like big time. And they said to me, I sent the guys a list of the delivery, and he's looking at it with his producer like, dude, you have to add another 0 to the number and you put it there, man. You're crazy.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, what the hell?
Yeah. Like quite literally.
But at the end, I don't know. It wasn't that. It wasn't 800,000, but it was. They figured out a good number, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna work with you guys because we can put a team together and we can present like a company. And then I introduced the 2 Fresh guys to CBS. Like, hey, this is which Phil you talked to Phil through email, right? So
yep, emailed a little bit. Yep,
I was with Phil and Scott which is a producer. So we were talking back and forth, and CBS loved the guys too. It's like, these guys are amazing. Let's work together. So that's when the partnership with me and Too Fresh started. It started like that. So every time CBS has a project, sometimes they contact me straight up, like, hey, Marcos, want to do a project? Bring Too Fresh together, Or sometimes they do projects, specific projects with the Too Fresh as well. And the guys at Too Fresh say, hey, CBS is here with us. You want to come join us? So it become like this a circle, and like me, the guys at Too Fresh and CBS. Yeah, but I have to say we are freelancers, designers. We don't know how to charge sometimes. I was in the beginning was like, oh man, I need professional help.
I mean, for a big project like that. Yeah, I mean, you gotta have a lot of experience to know how to bid something like that out. I mean, I wouldn't know where to begin for something that big. But that's interesting because like you basically, you are a freelancer, right? And you get this opportunity, and rather than spin up your own team and just like keep a lot of the profits and stuff, you basically hired a studio to be like the production arm for you. It sounds like, right? And you I'm assuming you led the creative and all that. How typical is that setup where someone like you gets an opportunity and brings it to a studio? And how does that end up working? I mean, are you paying the studio, or is the studio paying you? Like how does that actually work?
When I get into the studio, then the studio pays me because they have to pay all the employees. They have all the the legal fees or whatever. Because when I go to Too Fresh and I invite them in and say, yeah, we're gonna do it this way, then you have to have the contract with the client, and the contract requires like liability insurance, stuff like all this stuff that you need for the bigger projects,
right?
And you have to have proof of how much money the studio makes a year, stuff like that, so they can. And usually the studio had that. And freelance, you're a freelance, you're just doing designs, you're not gonna have that unless you have a big, big freelance that only works for big companies, and you have, but so so usually the studio becomes the studio, right? So I bring the project to the guys at Too Fresh, and from now on they handle the contracts, the money goes to their bank account, so they can pay not only me but all the other freelancers involved in the project too, So that's how it works. It's been working since then. Like every time I get a project, I talk to TrueFresh. He's like, yeah, it's our project. You go straight to TrueFresh, not to me, and then I have to pay them, Yeah,
Oh, that's awesome.
this is how it works.
Sounds like
But
a great
I
relationship.
heard about this, just so the other question you have, I heard about this thing about like some, because I've been in the industry, like you said in the beginning, I don't know when you were recording, but I've been in the industry a long time too. And what happens is you were working with people in the beginning, you're working with these people, like you make connections, right? So I started, for in my early years, I've been working here. I have friends that I work with, did freelance stuff, and sometimes these people get hired to some of these networks or even other studios, and they become like the lead creators, so they know you from that time. So usually so I heard stories like the people that now is working a network and they hire you because they love your work specific, not the studio, but I did work with you in a specific project like a long time ago. I love your work. Let's work together. I know that you are not studio, but I want to use specific because of your type of work. And not only that happened to me, there's also another guy that works a lot with TrueFresh, with Phil Bishop. He's also very good in sports, and he has the same relationship with ESPN. ESPN hire him because they love his work. It's like, I need to work with you. It doesn't matter where you are, I need to work with you. So they do the same thing with him. It's like, and he does the same thing with TrueFresh. He brings it to TrueFresh. Like, hey, ESPN just contact me to do like a specific sport event. But I know, because Phil is more a designer. He doesn't actually animate it. So yeah, I can design a frame and you guys do the animation. I don't care. It's like
That's great. That's a good setup. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so you put this together with TrueFresh, and CBS is like, cool, this is great, and now you've got a budget, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So now you have enough money to like pay freelancers. What does the process look like to pull something like this off? And I want to dig a little bit later into like the specific technologies, because I know that on 58 you used a lot of Unreal Engine, which is really interesting. But just in general, what does it look like when you're in the middle of something that big and it's for the Super Bowl? I imagine there's a lot of eyeballs, a lot of cooks in the kitchen at CBS looking at your work and stuff like that.
Yeah, it is. You know what's funny? You don't see it like that until then. I mean, in the beginning, yes, it's a Super Bowl, it's so cool. But when the process starts, it's pretty much the same thing as all the other process. We have the creative sessions, the design, approve the design, then start, and you're so involved into the day by day hustle of the project that you kind of forget that you're doing the Super Bowl. It's just at the end, you're like, oh, wait, we did the Super Bowl. It's gonna be a lot of people watching this stuff. But during the process, you kind of forget a little bit, because the whole design process is the same. It's the same for every project, right?
Yeah.
But the good thing about the Super Bowl, they literally think a year in advance. So like right now, as soon as the Super Bowl 58 ends, they already launched the logo for the one that's gonna be in. What's going to be in the south, right? The next one. They already launched it.
I don't know.
Yeah, the logo for the next Super Bowl.
Yeah, for 59.
Where is it going to be? It's going to be the Mardi Gras. See, what's the city with the Mardi Gras? The Carnival? New Orleans.
Is it New Orleans? New Orleans?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, because the whole logo has all this Carnival style. So yeah, they already. Yeah,
that's cool. That's really fun.
Because the NFL, they are the one to create the logo and the visual language for print media. Mm-hmm. So they create a year ahead, right? So CBS already have the material a year ahead. So usually when they start doing the Super Bowl, they always want to create like a new technology. It's like big events like Olympics and Super Bowl. They wanna try new technology. Not in the design part per se, but whatever technology. It could be like different cameras. It could be like a cool setup that it can develop, So they start thinking a year in advance, like, oh, what new technology? And so as a designer, we start working a year in advance. Well, not a year, but like maybe 6-7 months in advance for just one day, which is weird for me.
Yeah.
So, and when the process start going, it is the same process as all the project, and you have the meetings with the client. And to be honest, the CBS they have a small team that deals with the design. It's like 5 people, but the bigger one are mostly 2, and those meetings are very productive, and it moved like any other project, and just at the end that you figure out, it's a Super Bowl.
So what is like the what's the size of the team that's working on this? How long does it take? What are the different skill sets that you need? Like, I'm sure you need a million different types of artists.
Yeah.
Too,
it's
right?
mostly like we do like design phase first, and then so the team keeps evolving. Like when you're in the design creative phase, like it's more like experimentation, like design experimentation. Like we even have like some teams that keep doing like animation experimentation. Because when you come up with ideas, we come up with ideas that can translate into animation as well, right? So. This is gonna be the whole thing. We're gonna do this in the super. I don't know if you've seen the one we're talking about. We create this whole surface saturation thing. So we have the logos. They will have this 3D with the surface changing from one element to another, and they love this idea. And it was tied together with some other concepts. I remember the time for the other Superbowl. With all these concepts were tied together. So. When you're that part, we have like usually like maybe 5-6 people like doing designs, and maybe like 2 or 3 other guys just doing like 3D experimentation. Could be like a Houdini or a C4D, like creating cool techniques based on the creative concepts. This is on the production side, right? Then you have the network side. You probably have like a few more people working together with us now, because the thing about CBS, they like to work together to some extent. Like they see me and Chufesh as a arm of their creative team, So it's not like they hire us and give us a project back and that's it, It's more like, we have this meeting and we can integrate with the guy in the internal team as well. So so that happened. And then when you start production, which is pretty much animating all the pieces, start building the 3D graphics and stuff. And then that's when the designers drop a little bit. So we keep like usually like 2 or 3 guys designing. I'm one of those, right? Plus another 2 guys. And then the most of the team becomes animators, right? So then that's when you have like maybe 6. So 6 animators. Depending how long the project is. So and the Super Bowl, like I said, the other one, the previous one, it was around 6 months. So it's a long time. So that you don't need like a huge team, because if you have like a core team of up to 6 people, 7 people involved, that's enough. You don't need to have like thousands of people working on a project for 6 months.
Got it. So here's what I want to get into now. We can start to talk about Unreal, because I know that everyone's really going to be curious about how that was used. So I've worked on broadcast packages before, never anything the size of the Super Bowl, but I've done things with like tons of deliverables, and I've done things where you have to hand off a toolkit for the network to use, right? But never for something live. And so for live events, my understanding has always been that there's kind of this whole separate universe of VizRT and Chiron and these big expensive boxes that live at networks, and you can design for those and you can prototype things, but in the end, someone almost has to like rebuild that, a lot of that stuff. And but when you're doing the Super Bowl, you're designing that kind of stuff, but it sounds like you're also designing things that are going to be used just for promos or little interstitial transitional animations, all that kind of stuff, right? And so I'm imagining that there's probably like a very healthy amount of things that you can just pre-render and deliver. And then there's probably a ton of stuff that is not going to be pre-rendered. It's going to have to render on the fly, however that works. So maybe we start there. How do you approach those 2 different things, but they're part of the same project. But maybe this is going to be, you're just delivering an MP4 file. Over here, you're delivering what? An Unreal project? I don't even know how it works. So maybe talk us through sort of the difference between those two types of things.
I'll be glad to. Now, I mentioned before that every year at the Super Bowl, at the bigger event, they try to integrate new technology. So this time, when we did have like a meeting with the guys at CBS, because after the Super Bowl I'm talking about, we actually did the whole CBS Sports rebrand with them. So it was like a year of work. We did all the network sports. It was huge. So one of these meetings, they say, you know what, we're gonna do the other Super Bowl, which is this one right now, is 58, and we want to integrate Unreal to some extent because CBS actually has like a partnership with the guys Epic Games. Yes,
Epic.
They have an internal team that is being trained by the guys at Epic Games, so they can do like a lot of. They're integrating Unreal in their pipeline in the CBS network, so they
cool.
have that.
Yeah,
and they're saying like we need to integrate Unreal in the sports package to some extent because we have like some ideas and they have like these crazy ideas and do like a lot of the graphics live. It didn't happen because, to be honest, you have a bunch of ideas in the beginning, and when the production started, you start figuring, oh, that's not going to be possible. This thing's not going to be possible. This thing's not going to be possible. So at the end, what you saw on the TV was a toned down version of what we have in the beginning, all the ideas you have in the beginning. So they want to, in the beginning, they have this all great ideas to integrate the whole thing, almost like a live event in the graphics package as well, that you can shift and change stuff on the fly, and it'll only be possible with Unreal, So we embrace it. It's like, let's do it. I didn't know any Unreal at all until until then. Yeah.
How hard could that be too? Yeah.
So that Super Bowl 58 actually started a little early, started a year in advance, They got to us straight away in the beginning of the year. As soon as the Football 57 ended, I think it was NBC that did that one. So the next one is ours again. Let's talk about Unreal. So we have to train like a few people how to work on Unreal, change our mentality in the design or production aspects in Unreal. But
and give me some examples, like what had to change? What did you have to retrain people to do? Like what's different about Unreal?
There's a lot of stuff. First is, for example, you don't need to use, why you're going to use Unreal? That's the first question. Why? Like if you're doing like a nice 3D logo and you're going to render, you don't need Unreal for that. You can just,
you don't need Unreal. Yeah.
So first it was like, they tried to figure out why we need to use Unreal. And the main thing was because of the sponsors, and we can talk about that, right? Because they have this idea, they want to create different changes on the sponsors of the flight, giving them more love. But I don't know if you notice, a lot of the sponsor is what they call sponsor plates, right? So you see like Super Bowl brought to you by, I don't know, Progressive or Pizza Hut. I think Pizza.
Pfizer, probably, yeah.
So you see like the logo flying around and the Super Bowl logo, and then you have like a plate next to it saying this brought to you by Pizza Hut, or maybe you have like a logo around the animation, whatever, in the cuts.
Yeah.
So they didn't want to have that. They want to have a more integrated sponsor. So one of the ideas they have in the beginning was actually maybe put like a pizzeria inside of the graphics package, So we get a guy grabbing the pizza and taking to the stadium, and that's a Pizza Hut spot, a sponsorship thing, Yeah, so they have this whole idea to integration because they already work with Unreal doing the games package, the live games package. They have like some sponsorship things that happen in the field during the game. So they want to do that for all the graphics as well. They want to create like, and this is something they can change on the fly. They can change camera angles. They can. So we thought, this is a great idea. So let's start thinking about that. So a lot of the graphics, we thought about it like, okay, how we gonna make this graphic work and be changeable, and they can change on the fly as well. So instead of just render like one 3D camera from C4D, we create like a project that they can actually change it and adapt for what the needs that you have. You know what I'm saying? And it could be done on the fly. So let's say they wanna. I'm gonna give you all these examples that came up in the discussion. Let's say they want to match, because they did have like some drone cameras that was in Las Vegas, right? Superbowl is they have the drone cameras, so they want to like, okay, I want to put the 3D logo, our 3D logo, on the building in Las Vegas, so the drone can pass right closer to it and mix in live footage with the 3D graphics. You know, that's different. You can do that in post and give them like a file, but they want to do that on the fly. You know what I'm saying? So they want to merge the live action footage in the drone, maybe even with the presenter right there, and pass it to the logo. So they want to do all these things that will only be possible in Unreal. We can do like a render in C4D and give them, this is your render, use it.
It won't work,
But at the end of the day, a lot of these things, if you watch the game, they didn't use it. But we did a lot of tests, and I was working fine. So, and they also have like what they call the game package, which has to be rendered. You know, like so those logos, those transitions, stuff that happens on the screen that they can do in Unreal for some extent. The team itself wasn't prepared for some of these to be all Unreal. So we use VizRTs for some of this stuff. We didn't use, but we create the whole project, and we send it to them so they can recreate in VizRTs. So we did have like graphics for VizRTs, like all the transition, a lot of small team elements, stuff like that. They use in the VizRTs, or they use some other graphics. And the Unreal, all the Unreal stuff they start using in the pre-games and post-games, you know. But that's the idea to use Unreal. So it's like, they have this, remember what I told you about? They want something, and the solution for that was Unreal. I could, like the other agents, I could push back and say, no, don't do Unreal. Let's do a traditional graphic, make it a little cooler. And they'll be like, no, you want to do, you know what I'm saying? So we adapted what the client wanted to some extent. So we have to learn Unreal. We have to learn how to build stuff in Unreal that they can use as Unreal, not just render and give it to them. You know what I'm saying? So they can use this in a specific way that just Unreal, like I mentioned, the team logos that they can do on the fly, stuff like that. So we have to do that. And their idea was also in the beginning, since the beginning, they want to do like a big Vegas in 3D, right? They want to make like this huge Vegas city in 3D, so we can, fly around. And because the original idea, they want to fly around in the 3D Vegas, and they would match cam with the drone, because they have like some drones, and they have the technology to actually use the drone information into the Unreal.
That's really cool. I didn't know that existed. So it's like real time motion, like match moving, basically.
Exactly. So they could match it. So
that's
so
from
the idea,
a drone. That's
so
really
the
cool.
idea was like, we have this camera from Unreal, like driving through the Vegas Strip, and when you get to the Bellagio, which was the main studio, right, located, they have like several studios, but the pre-game and post-game was in the Bellagio fountains. So they want to have. The idea was have this. When the drone traveling to the 3D world, and then you wipe out to some degree. You
end up in the real world. Is that the idea? Okay.
World. So
that's wild.
That's one of the things that end up not happening. But we did a lot of tests with that. That's what I'm saying. This project was weird because we did some crazy tests. Not only us, but the CBS, pretty much CBS, because they're the ones talking to all the other vendors, about integrating the thing. But at the end, because the Superbowl is so big and they have a lot of things that needs, perfection, like they end up not using. Not going to use it because it might fail. Right. If it might fail for some extent, might fail because in the test fail once every 3 times. Done. Yeah. We're not going to use it. You know what I'm saying? Because they can't afford that in the Super Bowl having like issue.
Oh, I get it. Yeah, that'd be embarrassing. So you've mentioned you've already mentioned VizRT a couple of times. So I bet a lot of people listening to this or watching this aren't actually familiar with VizRT. I've mentioned it on the podcast a few times. And if you've ever been to NAB, VizRT has one of the biggest booths. So they always have this huge booth. But could you talk a little bit about what VizRT is, and then tell me why CBS didn't just tell you, let's just use VizRT? I mean, you mentioned they have the Epic partnership, but it seems a little risky, right? Like VizRT is designed to do all of this stuff in real time. That's what it's been doing for decades. But Unreal, this is kind of a new way of using it. So what is VizRT? How is it typically used? Before you hear that answer, I want to make sure that you know about our in-depth motion design curriculum at School of Motion. We don't just offer classes that you can take anytime. We also offer interactive guided sessions that go deep into teaching you how to use design and animation software, but more importantly, the principles of good design, animation, illustration, 3D, and much more. You get to learn alongside other artists, and you even get feedback and support from your own personal teaching assistant, a professional motion designer who's part of the School of Motion community. Find out more on our site. Link is in the description.
No. So VizRT is like you said, is to create like live action graphics for the game. So a lot of the stuff that you see that have a footage on the field, and you have the players popping up, stuff like that. Not only that, but they also do like even graphic that's full screen. Like it looks like pre-render, but they also use VizRTs for it because they have the capability to actually change stuff on the fly. And like, let's say you have like a player, you can change players in a graphic. Yeah, exactly. Put all this, you don't need to render, right? So this is kind of pre-bulk, but which works fine. To be honest, it was working really fine. But VizRTs has a lot of limitation. And if you're working with the VizRTs, guys, you need to render specific files. They only accept the specific image. That, like, for instance, if you're doing like all the 3D stuff, the quality of the render is not that great. It is not, and the lighting is very specific. You have to, and this we don't work with VizRTs, but we work with the VizRT team because we have to provide them all the graphics, and they keep sending us back. It's like, oh, we're trying to match it, but they, it's really hard because every time we're doing stuff with the VizRT team, there's so many like checklists. It can be like this, it can be like that, you can do this, you can do that, you can, there's, and then you're like, oh my God, these guys are working with their hand tied to some extent, Of course, VizRT today is even better than what was before in the beginning, but it's still, like, for instance, they don't handle too much stuff. Like, you can make like what we're doing, we're building the entire city of Vegas in 3D. You can't do that in VizRTs at all, not even close.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So when they start working with with Epic Games and Unreal Engine, they start thinking, whoa, wait, the render looks better. It's real time, as VizRT is, but track camera as well as real time render. But we can put like billions of polygons in there, better texture, and looks, and it's still real time. And they're like, oh my God, why do you need VizRT for? You know what I'm saying? So they are like, with that said, however, I have to point out some stuff, right? VizRT does a better job, like we were talking about, like putting type on screen, a lot of information. Now, which Unreal Engine didn't have that, but now with the new motion design module inside Unreal, now the thing's gonna be a little tough for the VizRT people because now we can actually do that. We can actually change information on the fly. Of course, there's other things too because VizRT is actually, a lot of the information is attached to like an external file. Like imagine that you have like a spreadsheet that you can put information and it goes straight to the VizRT. I don't know how this works with the Unreal Engine motion design yet, but
right. It's still new. I mean, they probably have to figure it out.
You have to figure a lot of the stuff out. That VizRT is being in this, in this market for a while now.
Forever.
They have those things. They have, the production side is better for them.
Yeah.
But VizRT is really limited to some extent. You can do a lot of stuff with it, and Unreal you can push the boundary like crazy. You saw the Nickelodeon thing with the liquid. They have like a liquid guy coming out of the field, like doing. You can't do that in VizRTs. You know what I'm saying? We did.
Right.
There's
right,
a lot of
right.
stuff that, or you can see we did a project with CBS before this, like for Unreal, which was like the little, called the mascot. It was for the university games, SEC, right? It was for the SEC, and we have all the mascots dancing, you know. So we have this, we model like the mascots, and we give to CBS, and they use like they have a third party company to do like the dancing, the mascot dancing, and to apply in Unreal. So they have the mascot dancing in the middle of the field, you know, with the flag of the university behind it, and like some explosions like happening around it. You cannot do that in VizRT at all. You know, all the stuff they can do in Unreal is not achievable in VizRT. So that's why they're integrating both of them right now. You know, but yeah.
Yeah. So what is it like working? You know, I've never used Unreal. We have one Unreal class at School of Motion. It's been very, very popular. So there's a lot of interest around this. But from what I've heard, you kind of have to approach it a little differently, primarily because it doesn't have all the tools built into it that you're used to, right? Like, I know they just added a whole bunch of new ones with motion design, but like, for example, you can't really model, really intricate things in Unreal. You know, I don't know how the lighting tools are and the texturing tools, but like, what was the pipeline for you guys going from, I assume, Cinema 4D into Unreal?
That you need to change your way of thinking a lot, because you're right. They do have modeling tools, but it's very primitive. If you need to have something modeling in a good way, you have to go to a third-party application. A lot of the people that works on the game space, they use Blender for it, so they model a lot of stuff in Blender. But we are at C4D; it doesn't matter. But the good thing is, Unreal has an integration with Cinema 4D, so you can actually export stuff from Cinema 4D, and you open Unreal with the textures, in the lighting, and the camera position. It's as simple as push a button and opening Unreal. However, with that said, we didn't use that because in the beginning we tried to do that. I go, you know what? Let's build the project in C4D and export it to Unreal, open that, and it's done. We just render it or use the cameras in Unreal. But we noticed that the textures, they're not that great. If you want to make the texture pop in Unreal, you kind of have to use the Unreal method to do texture, not the texture imported from C4D. So you start figuring out some of the stuff. Okay, you have to readjust the project. And we noticed that sometimes the project gets breaking apart if you save the C4D to some extent. The connection that they have with Unreal kind of breaks the project a little bit. Some stuff disappears. So the guys are happy to say, you know, the best solution is always export the FBX and then you open Unreal. Like traditional way, they move between softwares, you know. So we start doing that. We work in FBX and we model a lot of the stuff in. We actually have like a guy working in Blender and a couple other guys working C4D, like doing all the modeling for the city, like Las Vegas City. And then we export the FBX to Unreal, and then from that one we start texturing stuff again. Now, the texturing in Unreal, is way different than than the texturing in any other software, because let me see if I can find a good example. A lot of the stuff in Unreal is parameter based, right? So you can bring like a texture map, and you can link it to like when you look at it, it's the same thing as like working with Redshift, right? So you have the nodes. And, this is a node-based texture that can put in. You know, the names are different, right? So you don't have like they have specific names, IRO for reflection, stuff like that, whatever. So you can link the nodes kind of like you do in Redshift. However, all the other parameters in the nodes, like when you put a Redshift, when you're touching like a image texture, in the node of the image texture itself, you kind of have like scale, so you can it's scaled up. You kind of have like, you can link like a projection node, so you can change the projection right now. In Unreal, you have to any other parameters is a separate node, so you kind of have to think Like, oh man, now I want to change the scale of the
Yeah.
texture.
You're like compositing it in the texture tool,
And you think, I need to change
yeah,
the size
yeah.
of the texture. Oh man, the only way to do it create
Yeah.
like a node tree for that. So you need to create like a node that you can change the size of the texture. So the node system, it tends to become way larger in Unreal because of course it wasn't made for graphics package. It was made for games. So the way they created the node system was for optimization, to some extent, right? So better result optimization for games and for to real-time render. But for someone that comes from other packages, you start realizing stuff like that. It's like, okay, the nodes is a little bit different. Like for instance, one thing that I noticed, they use a lot of the information, like let's say the scale, all this stuff is based on color, because colors has three information, R, G, B. So you put colors and you have to connect R with a specific, let's say scale, R with the Z axis. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to connect each specific, because that's how the information works. And so sometimes you do changes. You keep seeing that your node's changing colors. Like, why are you changing colors? It's it's gonna affect my texture. No, you play some tricks in your mind. But to be honest with you, the render quality that comes, it's incredible. It is incredible. We did render some stuff in C4D because it's still better quality render wise. There's no way to deny it.
Yeah.
But we matched some of the stuff that you use as a real-time render in Unreal. And to be honest, for an untrained eye, you can notice a difference. Like this.
That's what I was going to guess.
You look like a bit.
You could tell the difference, but like the NFL viewer
can't tell the difference because if you put the lights in the correct way, the texture, and you look at both next to each other, it'd be like, wow, is the same file? Yeah, you can get a really good result, but it has to be. Yeah, it's a lot of work on the texture side, on the lighting side too.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, and then what about on the animation side, right? Like obviously camera animation and all of that kind of stuff, just basic movement seems very straightforward in Unreal. But like, if you're doing anything fancier than that, would you do that somewhere else and bring that in?
Animation side is a little tough in Unreal too, because the engine was made for games, right? So game has specific animations that you can do. The most of are triggered during the game. During the game, like if you have a guy walking, that's one specific animation, but you control by your remote control and you have some action. But if you want to just do animation, it's a little tough. They do have everything that all the animation software have. You have a timeline, and you can do keyframes, and you can change your keyframe. Everything, and you can even camera animation. You can create like a path, and you can have your camera attached to that path. You have, look at objects. A lot of the stuff that's traditional with all the other animation products. Of course, we're talking about. There's no such animation like you can do in C4D, like for example, a point-based type of animation, right? There's no such a thing. Like if you use a deformer in C4D, Unreal doesn't do that. Well, now the motion design, they do have like some stuff that reminds you like a point-based. They're adding that, but they could do that. It's pretty much like position, scale, rotation. All this stuff. You cannot just morph an object to another one. That is still, at least not in traditional. I think you might have, because they do have like some specific stuff that I didn't want to learn, because it's way more complex than that you can actually create some of the stuff like that. But you need to you need a code guy for it, or at least someone that knows code, so they can create like those tools for you, Which is, to be honest, that's the motion system is in Unreal. Is actually it is a code embedded in the Unreal platform, so you can access that code. So someone create this code, and you can do a lot of stuff for coding inside Unreal. But I'm not a coder. I don't want to get really close to it. But animations are rotation, scale, position, pretty much most of the time. Which is, to be honest, for the game package, it is what it is. You can create like a camera moving around. You can create like some, like the logo flying, the lighting changing, and it looks great, And you can have like some preset animations from characters, because Unreal import character animation and they do now have their own animation system that you can change, but you can bring characters animation. You can actually have like they have the chaos system. We can explode stuff and have dynamics in embedded. You have a lot of great tools in Unreal, but
yeah, it's a complicated app. Like I've watched a lot, and I'm in the beta, as are you and a bunch of other great artists, for the motion design tools. And just for anyone listening who isn't like up on this, Unreal it's a game engine primarily, but they realized, and CBS kind of realized too, all of the tools are there to kind of overtake VizRT and Chiron, and frankly, even a lot of the applications that you might use Cinema 4D for and After Effects. It can be competitive there, but the interface is not designed for motion designers, right? It's designed for game developers. And so you need way more powerful tool set than we need typically. And so they've built this new kind of, I don't even know what you call it, a module. It's a new sort of layout for Unreal that has a lot of the things you're used to. It has like a layer browser that looks kind of like Photoshop, and it's got a timeline and all those things to make it a lot easier. But what you're saying, Marcos, is that really that's just sort of skinning the tools in a way where it's hiding the complexity from you?
Because like you mentioned, it is a model. So it is, when you open Unreal Engine, you have all the tools there, right? So, but again, if you're doing like modeling or texturing, you kind of enter in this different model, right? So this is a modeling module. But there's another module that just to create like the environment that you're in, like so. And now they have this motion one, which is pretty much organize the tools that you already have inside Unreal in a manner that people like us, like came from After Effects or Cinema 4D, understands. Like, okay, this is your timeline. These are all the tools. This is, and they put it like cloner. They put like the same names from Cinema 4D, so you can understand. Oh, okay, so this is the cloner. This is a MoGraph thing. This is so you can understand a lot of this stuff, right? But those two exist in Unreal. The problem is to access them is way complex. So they create this model for us, so we can use the best Unreal has to offer in a way that we can understand. Like, okay, this is cool. All the effects are here. I can put it here. I can animate it there.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording. That it feels to me. I'm curious what you think. So I'd love to hear your opinion on this. When I got into the industry, it was right about the time that After Effects and Cinema 4D sort of came into their own. And before that, if you were doing any sort of motion design at all, you were using a Flame or a Smoke or something really expensive like that. And I think there's a lot of similarities here where, VizRT, Chiron, these are names that I think a lot of motion designers aren't even aware of unless they're in the broadcast industry, because they feel very separate. They're expensive, they're bespoke. I assume their interfaces look nothing like what you're used to, and you have to probably get trained on them to even use them at all. And so along comes Unreal. And the pricing model for Unreal is really interesting. I know it's changing, and they may eventually charge artists to use it, but for now, you can download the whole thing for free and use it. As a game developer, you have to pay if your game makes a certain amount of money, I think. But for designers, I think they're still sort of working out the pricing model. And so how do you think this is going to impact that broadcast world of these big legacy platforms that all the networks are using? Do you think Unreal actually could unseat them, and that we might be sort of watching the early days of, studios and companies that focus on that having to switch or, become extinct?
I think that was actually a big debate in the SVG conference. That was the sports graphic conference that we have in New York. And they have a panel talking about Unreal and how Unreal is going to affect the VizRT guys,
Well, I got to go to that. That sounds fun.
And one thing I noticed in those panels is not only because I think it's VizRT, they have like 3 other companies too, like the big 3. The VizRTs, they have another one. I don't remember the names, but
Chiron, I know Chiron, I know VizRT. Chiron. Okay, yeah.
So,
yeah.
What's funny about that in the panel, they all mentioned that they know that's a big competition and they know their flaws. So they're trying to integrate their software with Unreal. So, it could be something that you can go back and forth, you know what I'm saying? Because as I mentioned before, they still have some better solution for broadcast live events, especially information type. Like you have to put information.
Like a weather map and stuff. Like you need specialized software to kind of like news stations use it a lot too.
And that's connected to some external file. Like let's say that like weather you mentioned. Like let's say it's connected straight to the weather servers in I don't know, the city weather service, so they can get information on the fly. So they can do that.
Right.
And I'm not sure if I think when you still not can do that, you have to put manually the information there. But I'm not 100% sure the Unreal wants to go to that route as well. You know what I'm saying? They want to have the motion design package, but I don't think they want to integrate that much of this the information-based connectivity with some external softwares in their package. That's at least that's what I got from the panel, because they say, well, they're Unreal is for games, right? Motion designs is a small market that they are trying to get it because they saw the opportunity there. But besides that, you know, they have a partnership with Disney and all the other studios that use for the backgrounds, right? So they have, which is a lot of, if you guys seen all the making offs recently, all the big shows, Netflix and Disney, you've seen their reels there. Reels pretty much in there, you know, it's all the shots.
Yeah.
So they have that too, you know. So I don't know if they want to take over like VizRT. So what might happen, I think VizRT is gonna shrink. They're gonna be more focused on some specific things. And Unreal is going to take over the cooler, more visual appealing things, you know, in the live. I'm talking in the broadcast, in the live games, right? The other thing too of VizRT is if right now, and I can use the Superbowl as a reference too, because we did actually render a lot of stuff from Unreal. We provide them a lot of renders, like because they want to have like some extend up open that it's not going to change. So, you know, renders. So we did provide a bunch of renders for them straight up from Unreal. And VizRT is not that great to do stuff like this. I think it works better on the fly, you know, on the live events, you know. So they saw this, at least I'm talking based on the conference that I saw. They saw this like, okay, this is all the weekends we have Unreal, we cannot chase them, you know. We might as well integrate Unreal into ourselves. So that's what I noticed. They create like tools that you can create stuff between VizRT and Unreal. So that way you can have the best of both worlds. You know what I'm saying? But I guarantee you, because VizRT was taking, it was pretty much everything. The live event was VizRT's, everything, or Chiron. Like 100%. If you have a game, 100% of the stuff they see on the screen that's live updates was Chiron or VizRT's. But now they have, they have like, I don't know, like 60% and the rest is Unreal. So I think it's going to get a balance there that their market is going to shrink. But I'm not 100% sure that's going to disappear just because I don't think Unreal is chasing that market. You know what I'm saying? They have bigger fish to catch, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, the gaming industry is way bigger than, you know, like broadcast design. So, yeah.
The way they're using the Unreal is pretty much, you don't use green screen anymore. Like, if you go to Disney, you can check out the making of. There's no green screen. It's all the backgrounds are Unreal now. So, I think this is more important to them than like, let's take the VizRTs out of the broadcast design. They did a model for the broadcast design. And you can tell that, when you talk to Andy, you can tell the heart of Epic Games is not too much in the broadcast design. But, you know, Andy is one of the guys championing for it. Like, let's take over. But you can see that his boss is like, you can do it, but, you know, we're not going to take over. But it's good to see that. I think the thinking on the companies, it's like they don't want to take over the broadcast to some extent, but they want to have like a great tool that we can use.
Yeah, it's really smart. I'm really excited about it. I mean, like for years it was After Effects and it was Cinema 4D, and that was kind of, and then you on the periphery you'd have Houdini and these tools that you kind of plug in, but you kind of just had these two big dogs, and now it does really feel like it's kind of up in the air. We were talking before we started recording about Rive, and I've been like, that's been my hobby horse for the past year, really. And I can see a world like the one thing about Unreal, and I don't know how VizRT works, but Unreal, everything has to be a piece of 3D geometry, right? Even if it's like a piece of type, I'm assuming they have a plane and they're just sort of mapping a texture onto it or something like that. Or it's literally 3D geometry. And that's really cool. I'm assuming that creates some limitations. It also really, it's going to change the way, like an After Effects artist is used to working a certain way, and there's things you can do because it's a 2D app. Luma mats and alpha mats, things like this. And in 3D, you have to think differently. But Rive kind of bridges that gap, and it works really well with Unreal. So in my mind, I'd love to imagine this world where you've got, sort of the 2D stuff is handled with Rive or something like it, and it's real time. And then the 3D stuff is handled by Unreal. And all of a sudden, you've got, no more rendering. Imagine, it's like that John Lennon song. Imagine a world without rendering.
To be honest, we're getting pretty close to it, because I have to say something. Since I've been in this, I've been doing this for a while now, right? So I remember not that far long ago, like maybe 6 years ago, we were doing like renders in Redshift didn't exist yet. So we were doing renders in Cinema 4D, and you take like a few hours for a frame,
Yeah.
And then especially if you have a lot of details and stuff like cool lightings. And then we see people like using V-Ray. I was working with the guys who are doing V-Ray stuff, and V-Ray is like a beast. You need to have like an entire like a room with like several machines working so you can use the processors so it would start rendering stuff. And then came out something called Octane. And I was watching stuff online that they're real-time rendering to some, well, it was real-time to some extent, right? You render, but it was super fast. Yeah,
you can preview in real
time. And then Redshift came about, and you're like, wow, you can do like stuff that you take like a week to render in your computer. You can render pretty much in a few hours. So I was like, wow, we're living the future. And then came Unreal with the fucking, sorry, but
oh no, that's good. We curse on this show. It's fine.
Then came Unreal with the Lumen and the Nanite thing, and I started looking. Everyone saw the presentation they have when they launched the Unreal version 5, right? Which one? With the Lumen, and everyone was like in awe. It was like, what is that real time? It looks super real in real time. And it seems that they keep it changing. Because right now they have this new texture mode, which is a little more realistic. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know where we're gonna be. Everything's real time.
Yeah,
it's insane.
And there's MetaHuman, which I think is incredible too. I mean, that's there's probably less motion design kind of use cases at this point for it, but I mean, it's wild. The presentation I went to at NAB where they were showing off a lot of the motion design stuff and kind of their roadmap for it. They also talked about how when you get Unreal now, you actually don't just get Unreal, you get all these other tools that Epic makes. And there's something, I think it's called reality capture or something like that, where you can basically capture a 3D object and its texture and everything like with your phone, and then you can bring it right in. And I mean, it's kind of wild what is going to be possible in like the next 12 months.
And it's a good thing that you mentioned that, because we were talking about Unreal being free and you can download it for free. It's not only Unreal. You also download it. If you go to Epic Games, you say like they bought some of these other companies, so they integrated. You have the Twinmotion, which is just a render. It's actually the same thing like a motion design. Is like a Unreal is made in Unreal, but it's a specific software just using the Unreal engine, but to renders for architecture, right? So you bring your CAD models and you start rendering for real time to show to the clients, right? And it has straight up access to the CG Trader, so you can download all the models for free from there. It's like, what? It's insane. Yeah. And then inside Unreal we have all the Quixel. It's the Quixel, right? So the Quixel model, the textures all inside Unreal for free. So you can build from scratch. You
Yep.
can build like a beautiful environment, start using, and it's for free. And all these other tools like MetaHumans, it's free. You don't need to pay anything. So you start playing around, and it's like insane. I don't know what these guys are doing, but it's insane.
Well, they made Fortnite, and that kind of has funded everything they've ever dreamed of doing. So that I think that was their secret, was they just hit an absolute grand slam with Fortnite. So Marcos, the last thing I want to ask you about. Thank you so much for like being so open about all this stuff. It's like, it's cool to hear that doing the Super Bowl isn't, like in my mind, it's like, oh my God, there must be all this pressure and, you must feel like you're under a microscope. And really, in the end, it's the same as doing, a commercial or anything like that. It's the same process. And you just got an opportunity to use some newer tools. And I think it's really cool, too, that CBS was so open to I think that's a really neat thing. I've never heard that before, that they want to try a new technology every year. That's kind of wild. That's something I would want to do, but I can't imagine a client doing it. So that's great. But what I wanted to ask you was, I'm sure a lot of people listening or watching this, they're like, Marcos, you have my dream job. You get to work with all these amazing brands. We're going to link to Marcos' website, which I'm going to try to pronounce it correctly. It means dream state in Portuguese, but it's Estado de Sonho.
Yes,
How'd I do?
Correct. Estado de Sonho.
Okay, good. Estadodesonho.com. Amazing work. And now you've worked on 3 Super Bowls now, and you're kind of on the bleeding edge of Unreal and how this stuff works. If there's, some young motion designers out there listening to this and they're like, I want that. How do I get to that point? What's some advice you would give them? Should they move to LA? Should they immediately go download Unreal? Like what would you tell them if, you're trying to give them like the 5-year plan or something?
The 5-year plan. It's a lot of responsibility.
I know. Choose your words wisely.
Let's say, first of all, you have to be open. There's a couple of things that I can say that I think in my career, when I realized those stuff, it made me push. It pushed my career ahead. One is understanding that your work is not your work, it's actually for the client, like you mentioned before. When you start suggesting solutions for the client, you're a designer, so you know what's good, right? But sometimes you get attached to specific design that you create, like, oh, I love this design, it's my baby. I love it. And I learned, because I actually study storytelling as well, and there's a saying in storytelling, actually when you're writing a script for film or whatever, there's a saying that kill your babies, right? That means that sometimes you get so attached to a specific scene. It could be in a book, like a specific scene in a book or a specific scene that you think is awesome. I create this scene, this is amazing, it's going to look awesome. So proud of it. But it doesn't belong to the overall film. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't belong to the entire movie. And you have to kill it. And you're like, no, but I love that scene. But you have to kill it because it doesn't make sense in the movie. So that's pressure. You have to take it too hard. And every time I design, sometimes I create like this beautiful design. It's like, wow, I love it. But the client say, yeah, I love the design, but it doesn't belong to our project. So you kind of have to think, you're right. It doesn't belong to our project. So there's two things there. One is sell your design. You know how to sell your design, which is kind of, you can sell some of the designs that the client might not think belongs to your project, but belongs to the project, so you can actually help sell your design. But the other is detach yourself from what the client needs. The client has those needs, and you have to understand those needs and design accordingly. It's like, okay, I know what the client want. I'm going to design accordingly. Because sometimes I see a lot of the designs that they create some specific piece and they get attached to it and they can move past it. So that's the big thing. I think once you start figuring this thing out, it's going to happen the same thing that happened to me. You're going to be in a meeting with a specific client, and the client's like, this guy's get me. This guy get me. He gets what I need, and he offering good solutions for what I need, not just trying to push like some bullshit solution. You know what I'm saying? I think that's the main thing. Once your mindset changes, because when you're designing, you fell in love with the design first, right? Not the client's need. That's a secondary thing. You don't care about that. I don't care about the colors, the design, the beautiful thing I'm making. Oh, it's so beautiful. And then you show to the client, yeah, it's kind of nice, but, and then what are we talking about? You don't like my design? You don't like my design? Come on, man. Yeah. I'm a designer. You have to separate those things. And once you learn how to do that, I think you go ahead way fast in your, in your life. And the second thing I think is the most important, which is good for you too, is learning new stuff all the time, because technology changes, and you kind of have to, even if you don't use those on a daily basis, but you have to be aware how this new technology is going to influence the market overall. You know what I'm saying? Okay, like we're talking about the Unreal, you're talking about Rise. Like, I don't know Rise, I don't want to use Rise, but I'm aware of it. And if someday I'm working with a client that he needs a specific solution, I know that Rise can do. It's like, you know what? I know this specific software that can do this particular solution for you. So you need to keep, I always said to people at work, like, you need to have like a budget to get like in classes for stuff that you need to, that you want to learn, so I always have a budget to buying classes, to buying courses, to get into, to learn new stuff, all the stuff that I know that it might influence, the market moving forward. AI is one of them. Like when we were talking about it, Rise, all these new tools, just learn it a little bit, get it, learn it. Even if you don't use it on a daily basis, at least you need to be aware so you can offer solutions for your client.
Keep your eye on it, yeah.
And that's a good. I mean, I'm an art creative director, so my goal is offer solutions for the client. Of course, there's some designers, they don't want to do that. They just want to be designers, But you ask me to get to my level, you kind of need to know design and also know, also know how to sell your design and how to use different tools to help clients' needs, pretty much,
Check out Marcos's work at estadodesoño.com. Find the link in the description, because unless you speak Portuguese, you won't spell that correctly. Also, check out Too Fresh at toofresh.tv. The caliber of work that has been coming out of this particular partnership is insanely high, and they're on the cutting edge of real-time broadcast graphic design. And if that's interesting to you, check out our full motion design curriculum, including Unreal Engine training at schoolofmotion.com. That's it for this one. Make sure you're subscribed. I'll see you next time.